Do you want to learn the latest CBO campaign-based optimization Facebook ad strategy for 2019? Let's go. Hi, my name's Ricky Hayes, and for everyone that doesn't know me, I'm a 7-figure entrepreneur and I've helped many people around the world. Don't forget to subscribe to today's video and check out all my other videos, over 140 hours of course grade content that I give to you weekly. All right, guys, so absolutely love it. So CBO scaling strategy. Okay, so I gave it the wrong title, but it's actually a CBO starting and scaling strategy. So for those of you who aren't aware, Facebook, as of September 2019, I can't remember the exact date, we'll be changing it so that campaign-based optimization is the only method we have. You do actually admittedly have the option to also change it. So on individual ad sets, you can actually set a minimum and maximum budget so it emulates the current method. But it is better to let Facebook do that. I have split test that, and I have found that just letting a CBO campaign do its thing over time does perform better. So a key few things about this before we go further is for interest targeting, you mainly want 2 to 10 million audiences, okay, as a starting point. So I get people ask me, what's the perfect audience for this? What's the perfect audience for that? There is no such thing. There's software out there for it, and I've looked at it about more narrow, specific audiences or more broad audiences. At the end of the day, it comes down to your intuition, and the product tells the story. I want you to understand that. And you let the data tell you where the pot of gold is. So I go 2 to 10 mil for the reason of, let's say you had a 8 million people audience, and you found that for whatever reason that your demographic was 25 to 34-year-old men on Instagram. Okay, as soon as you cut out all those other age demographics and let's say women, that 8 million people audience would go down to, I don't know, 1 million, let's say hypothetically. Okay, and if you look at that on a ratio of a 1/8, and let's say you had 800,000, then you would only have 100,000. And as we all know, with Facebook, we can scale very high. And what's going to happen is you can scale that campaign, that ad set, and if it's doing really well, that's fantastic. However, what that does mean is that there's a frequency column in Facebook ads, and I suggest that everyone that's not using it to use it. Your frequency column can be an indicator that your ad is hitting the same people, okay? That's why if you have a look at it, your cold traffic ones will have like a 1 to 1.3, whereas your retargeting is going to have like a 2 to 3 or something like that, because it's a much smaller pocket. So by having smaller audiences means that you're going to have like higher frequency. And I do apologize, I just realized I didn't move my mic. So also, in addition to this, you also want to change from, I used to go mobile and Instagram and Facebook newsfeed. But through watching some other YouTubers and that as well, I don't take credit, I hadn't tried this. So full credit to Tristan Broden, another Aussie as well. Thank you for this great idea. And it's been working well for me. Is automatic placements. Okay, so automatic placements obviously means desktop as well. I want to make a disclaimer. Desktop generally doesn't do that well. Desktop will do primarily well if you've got an older audience. If you're looking at your audience is 25 to 44, your audience nearly guaranteed is going to be mobile. If you look at 45 plus, especially once you hit 55 plus, you're actually going to see a lot more on desktop. But desktop is generally a higher cost per click and a lower CTR. So desktop can do well in very good situations, but it's important to keep that in mind because desktop is just more expensive. And why desktop is more expensive is simply because there's fewer people using desktop, and more people marketing to desktop means more competition, higher CPMs, higher cost per click, and lower CTR. Okay, guys, that's really important to keep in mind. So a few ground housekeeping rules. Yeah, that one. So go automatic placements, but be dubious of the desktop placement. If it's not doing well, just cut out desktop altogether. about 90% of your sales subsequently are going to come from mobile. But I have had instances where desktop can do well. But it's important that you know older audiences. Okay, so audience network as well does very well. Okay, so I've been noticing a lot more, especially retargeting, that audience network actually does quite well as a placement. The placements can get you a lot of sales from their third-party vendors. So keep that in mind. That's why I use that as well. It's important that I wanted to discuss as well, before we get into the CBO strategy as a whole, that the main placement that is getting a lot of attention is stories. Okay, stories is a trending thing right now. You can see that it's used by Facebook, Instagram, their Messenger app, YouTube, and it's also now being incorporated onto Spotify. And I believe there's probably other platforms, but I'm just not aware of. Okay, stories are doing really well. They have a high level of engagement. You look at Instagram, where it started with the stories, and if you did a shout out on a story post and someone has over 10,000 followers, then they unlock the swipe up feature, and that allows people to swipe up, go straight to the destination URL, which is very, very powerful. And that's why stories are really good, especially sponsored ones. People are going to be sitting there watching it. It'll scroll through, and then they're going to see a new story that's a sponsored one. Oh, this is a cool item. And it all works the same. Okay. It is important, though, that you test that most people are running videos. Stories doesn't work with all video lengths and dimension size. It is best if you're finding it's doing well. I would highly recommend either doing it yourself or graphic designer, whatever. I just use a graphic designer, making it 1080 by 1920. Okay, that's optimized for mobile screens. Okay, optimize it. Even if you need to make a new creative, it doesn't matter. It does. You want to fill up that whole screen as much as possible. And that, I will admit as well, has worked for image and also videos. Stories are really good because you notice a lot of stories, if you look at your friends' stories and that, a lot of them are just images. Okay, so stories are really, really good for images, whereas news feeds aren't as much because it's mainly video. Okay, so it's a bit of a different ball game. And I do recommend having like a little animation like swipe up 50% off today, something like that, to really encourage them to give them that call to action. Further to that as well, I just want to quickly add that WhatsApp is something that you should all be keeping in mind. All right, and lastly, I put that there. You can all sort of read it, but basically, Facebook is now becoming an automated machine. So we're now getting into the CBO element of it. But Facebook is becoming automated. CBO is telling us from Facebook is telling us that they don't want us to be doing as much optimization as we did historically. They want their algorithm to do most of it. So that's why you're going to notice that all these other YouTubers, that PPE doesn't really work as well, that it's all just purchase conversion. And whether you're using 7-day or 1-day click, I've used both. I don't notice a dramatic change. Personally, in my opinion, I see that changing in the future because I don't really know anymore what the benefit of either of them are. Okay, you can test them all day, but you're going to get varied results. And for people that have, you'll know what I'm talking about. And this also comes down to, so in the CBO ad sets, campaigns, that you do want to try and optimize ad sets still. So if you find 25, 34-year-old men on Instagram, what you're going to do is you duplicate it 3 times out into a separate CBO campaign. Okay, 3 different pockets of that same ad set into a separate campaign on $50 a day minimum, especially when you're scaling, and you're going to scale it up. Again, I want to add that sometimes now I'm noticing a lot more frequently that by optimizing ad sets has an adverse effect. And what I mean by that is that logically it makes sense to optimize, but we got to remember that Facebook isn't like Google, and Facebook is a platform that is very much a social interaction, hence the social network platform. And as a result of that, you can actually optimize ad sets that make perfect sense on a broader one, but when you narrow it down and test and spend some money on it, it won't convert at all. I've had that a ton of times, and I'm finding more and more and more that just letting Facebook do the work, okay? Just let Facebook do the work. I try to not look at my ads much, and I don't even really optimize ad sets now unless they have at least 5, even if they have 10 sales on it, to really get adequate data. Facebook isn't like what it used to be months ago. It's changed a lot. And over this year, it's going to be changing a lot more. All right, so let's move on to the part that you were all probably, a number of you have left for because it didn't give you the value straight away that you all just wanted. Okay, so the strategy is a little different based on where you're at your journey. Okay, so first things first, if you are testing a new product, okay, you need to spend $20 a day. You can't spend $10 a day on a CBO. It's not going to get enough data. It's because you need to test multiple audiences. And if you're testing 5 audiences on a $10 budget, let's say, in theory, they're going to spend only $2. It's not enough. Okay, with the fact that the average CPC statistically, and there's threads on this, that now good performing ads managers are running at around a 70-cent cost per click. Okay, so if you run at about a 70-cent cost per click and you have a $2 budget, you're going to get 3 clicks max in theory. And what that means is that's not statistically relevant to say, have you tested the product? Too many people don't test products enough to actually know if it's a winner. All right, so you need to spend $20, 4 to 5 ad sets. Okay, no more than 5. Okay, but if you're testing 10, then you want to use a $5 times rule. So what that means is 10 times 5, $50 a day. If you want to test 10 ad sets, you need to spend $50 a day on that campaign. Okay, but if you're doing 5, you can get away with $20. Okay, so because as we all know, what's going to happen is it's going to prioritize of those 4 to 5 ad sets. Probably 2 to 3 are going to get the most budget. Okay. Okay, and this is the part where I highly recommend to not be trigger happy. Is that the word? Anyway, trigger happy, whatever. Anyway, because I see a lot of people ask me this question a lot, and admittedly I've done it too, so it's just something. CBO, we really have to get used to now that you have to leave it 48 hours. I've always said leave it 48 hours, but I see that people after 24 hours, it's not done well at all, and they just kill it and they move on to the next product. You do need to leave that. The first 24 hours now is nearly always going to be break even / slightly profitable / slightly unprofitable, one of those 3. But the next 24 hours, if it's doing well, is generally where it does really well. Now, that doesn't just apply for if you're testing a new product. That applies for if you're scaling a product. Okay, so it's really important that you keep that in mind. Don't be trigger happy. Okay, and just be patient. We have to be very patient now. Facebook is because it's becoming a more automated machine. We have to give the automation time to try and find us the pocket of audience, and especially because where competition's rising, we need to give it time to try and find us. I mean, obviously, Facebook's goal is to make us money. The more money it makes us, the more money it makes in return. It's just simple as that. Okay, so I've already explained that. So for scaling, it's really easy with scaling. Okay. So it's actually just really easy with CBOs. If you can have a good CBO, it's really easy to scale. So again, if you have initial CBO that's doing well, what you want to do is you don't want to just be like, oh, bam, man, yeah, I've found the pot of gold. What you immediately do is I recommend that you make another CBO campaign and test at least 20 to 25 new audiences. And again, use the basis of about $5 budget. So you're looking at spending $100. And again, the exact same rule, 24 hours. And then what you're going to do is you're building up a number of different audiences. You're building up a number of different audiences that are, good converting audiences. And what you do is you get those, flat duplicate them. Don't change a thing if they're doing well after 3 sales into a new campaign. I just call it best ad set CBO. Really doesn't matter, whatever you want to call it. And I set it to at minimum a $50 budget. So if I put 5 ad sets in there, I'm going to set to $50. If they've done really well, I might even put it on $100. Okay, but at minimum $50, and then the 24 and 48 hour rule applies. Important to note that after 48 hours, if it's profitable, now profitable not overall, okay, even if it's not profitable overall in the last day. So if you're like sitting on 2.5, double the budget. Just double the budget. And then you do that 24 hours thereafter. Okay, you just repeat that process. While you're doing that, once you get an ad sets that have, let's say, 10 sales, you do want to still try and optimize them. Okay, and you optimize them through the demographics and duplicate into a new campaign. So you can see where I'm getting at with this is that it's just duplicating into a new campaign, leaving it for 48 hours. If it does well, start doubling the budget. That's exactly what all you need to do. But there is a further part to this, okay? The key with Facebook now, with CBOs, is stupidly easy to scale. The thing that you need to keep in mind, and I sort of touched on this with placements, is creatives. I have found personally that I have not tested enough creatives, and that's been a fault of my own. I've gotten a bit complacent with the creatives. Like, oh, it's converting. Yeah, right. It really does make quite a difference making new creatives. And that can be new ad copy with the same video or image. It could be carousel over image. It could be video. You need to test. And what you do to do that the best way, always just test on ad sets that are doing well. So if an ad set is historically done well, you know that the audience is engaged. And so we know that that's engaged. We can eliminate trying to find a good audience. We've eliminated that our website's the problem. We've got all of that aside. This is a process of elimination. Now we're just trying to find a different message, a different method to increase our CTR and decrease our CPC and subsequently conversions. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get conversions, but in theory it does, because we already have a good audience. So what you need to do is, again, make a new CBO campaign called CBO Best Ad Sets Video Creative 2.0. That's how I do it. And test a new creative. Test a new multiple creatives for different placements and let it run for 48 hours. $50 budget. And you repeat that. Repeat it. You're going to get a number of ones that are going to do a crap, but the ones that do really well are always going to outshine that. So it's important that now you should have the framework, okay? Because it's always, I still start with United States, 25 plus, generally to women, automatic placements. I just go one day click. So just use that as your template. And then you just test new creatives, okay? Find winning products and test new creatives. That's it, okay? And then, if you want to go to that degree as well, new landing pages as well, and see how that converts, okay? That is the CBO scaling strategy. You just keep doing that. If a campaign starts doing poorly, taper down the budget by 50%, okay? Just so if it's $100, $50. So that's... Yeah, anyway, so, $50 and let it get some time. Sometimes it does that, okay? And I should also add, the exact same rule applies for retargeting. The exact same rule applies for DPA ads. Those are the 3 campaign types that you need to be successful with Facebook, and you just need to follow that strategy. And that concludes today's video, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment down below. Crush it to go in the chance to win one of 2 15-minute coaching calls with myself, Ricky Hayes. And if you comment any questions down below for the first hour, I will be sure to respond to you to help you out, okay? Now, lastly, I wanted to add here as well that I'm updating my course, Ecom Lifestyle University. My course, by far, in my opinion, is the most updated and most comprehensive course that you've ever come across. And I've been charging way too little for it. For the amount of value that people get in it. Like, it's not just Facebook ads, it's store optimization, scaling, Google ads, ManyChat. It's even going into personal branding. It's going into more Google ads, going to be having Bing and so much more. So I am updating it, and you can see here that I've already got a ton of videos, 16 hours I calculated, with over 85 videos, and soon to be hitting about 100. And you can see that people absolutely love the course. It's been absolutely influential towards their success. And it's on that note that I am actually going to be updating the price of the course, because it's just, I know that it's just too cheap for the amount of value that you get. And I honestly think that it's the best course out there. I'm so proud of it. All these people going to buy these other quick cash grab courses. The difference is my course, I genuinely try and teach you long-term sustainable income. Okay, the fact is, just an honest truth, that most courses out there are just teaching you the bare minimum. Okay, and truthfully, most of that you can just find on YouTube, and it's nothing revolutionary at all. Most of the case studies and that just comes from the fact that inevitably, as you grow, you're going to get people that get success, and then everyone jumps onto this bandwagon of that it must be the next big thing. But the reality, it isn't. And in 2019, I just want to be honest, I see that most of these businesses are going to start to flop. I've been having a hard time too due to external factors. And again, it's sort of hit home the reminder of why it's so important to build a brand and not just another store. People are finally starting to realize that why you build brands over just some crappy store. It doesn't have to be just the most amazing thing in the world, but if you want real income, you really have to have the knowledge to be able to actually achieve those results. And that's where my course, I am so proud of it, because I've genuinely put that effort in to give you all the tools and arsenal you need. And that's why when I update it, the price is going up. So there is a link down below. I highly recommend that you jump on it. It gets you lifetime access to everything. And the course originally started with 53 videos, and as I said, it's already gotten over 85, and I'm going to be doing a bulk ad of about another 10 to 15 in the coming week or so, because I really am passionate about this course, because it's a fantastic course that I've personally invested a huge amount of time and money into to give you all the most value. So if you are sitting on the fence, I highly recommend that you jump in as soon as possible. We can see that it's currently $497. It will be going up to at least another $100 to $200 on top of that, because it's just too much value compared to the other people out there that I actually updated for starters, and it's reliable content that's going to help you, okay? All right, so thank you so much for your time today, guys. Have a lovely day. Take care and goodbye.